Hi everybody, I'm Shermaine Davis and welcome to Just Good Foods. I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, beef stroganoff to me was the worst thing I could smell coming in from school. But I don't know if your mother was like my mother, whatever she cooked, I had to eat. But today I'm going to show you that beef stroganoff is not the bad dish. It really can be good. It can be flavorful. Hey, what we have here is about 1.5 pounds of stew beef. It's the same stuff that you use for your beef stew recipes. Exactly the same thing. And they're going to be cut in chunks. We won't do that to all of them, but just to some of them. Some of the really big pieces. Plus, it also helps you to cook it a little bit faster, the smaller the pieces are. Okay. And I think this is the last big piece that we have. Okay. Okay, have you guys ever seen the movie Julie and Julia? Whatever it was about the girl who was the writer, who was writing the whole story about Julia Child. Well, one point that Julia Child made was that when you caramelize meat, the meat has to be dry. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the meat, I'm gonna get a paper towel, and all we're gonna do is just make sure that the meat is dry. If it's wet, you'll end up steaming instead of caramelizing, and then it'll be gray. Okay. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna take a little bit of oil, and this is what we're gonna use to caramelize the meat. So we're just gonna move the oil around in the pan a little bit, turn it down to a kind of a medium, and we're gonna wait for that to get hot. As with any meat in any dish, a lot of people feel that if you're doing something with sauces, that when you season the food is when it's in the sauce. In order to make sure that all of your flavors are layered, we layer each step along the way. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little salt to the meat. And then we're gonna add a little pepper. I know you see me tossing and all of that stuff. The whole recipe will be shown at the end of this episode. So then we're gonna toss it around a little bit and make sure that it's all mixed in. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wash my hands a little bit because we have to get the flour. Just gonna toss a little bit of flour in here and coat it. And then it's off to the pan we go. Hear that sound? That is exactly what you want to hear. You want to hear it sizzle. This might be actually a little bit too much meat in the pan. However, if you'd like to, you can break this up into probably 2 batches. And we're gonna move the oil around a little bit. And then we're just gonna let it do its thing for a bit. We're gonna move some of these spices over here to the side, and then we're gonna start on the onions. The safest way to do this is to cut one piece along the back, and then that makes it steady. If you try and slice it the other way, you could cut yourself. Cut the ends. We're gonna take one little layer off of the skin. The rest of this goes in the trash. And then we're gonna start chopping. And it really doesn't have to be a fine chop. It can be a rough chop. But you just want that flavor. Before I finish this, let's take a look at the meat. See the brown here? This is exactly what you want to see. Want to see all the caramelization on it. That is added flavor to the meat. See? This is what you want your pieces of meat to look like. And don't rush it. It will tell you when it is ready to be turned over. I'm gonna finish turning these over, and then we're gonna get back to the onions. Okay, now that I've turned all of the meat over, we're gonna come back over to the onions, and we're gonna finish giving them a chop. Like I said, it can be a rough chop. That's fine. The onion I had was huge. So this should really work for me right now. And I'm gonna stop cutting these now because now I'm starting to get, my eyes are just, They say that the reason that you cry because of the onions is because your knife is not sharp enough. I don't know if that's actually true because this knife is really sharp and I'm starting to feel the tears coming. So just know, cutting onions, you're gonna tear up. It's just a part of it. Now the meat has been cooking a little bit. We've got good caramelization on the meat. It's got a really pretty brown color to it. Now we're gonna remove the meat and put it into a separate pan. And we're gonna cook the onions in this. The reason being is because you want all that beefy flavor in each step of the cooking process. See all of these little bits? That's where the flavor is. So you really wouldn't want to start all over again with onions and then you lose all of this. Nah, you want to keep all of this.
You go.
Okay, so now we're gonna take the onions and put the onions in the pan. Put the knife to the side here. And to the onions, we are going to add some crushed garlic. I like to take shortcuts where I can. This comes already crushed. Feel free if you'd like to crush your own cloves. If you crush your own cloves, I'd use about 2. But using this, we're gonna add maybe about a tablespoon or a nice little hunk. That should be perfect. And then we're gonna mix it all up together. We want all of that goodness and all of the onions and the garlic, all with the great little bits of beefy stuff in here. Okay. We're gonna let that cook down just a little bit. Now that we're gonna let this kind of cook and caramelize just a little bit while it's cooking down, we're gonna go and do the mushrooms now. Okay, while the onions and the garlic are cooking, what we're gonna do now is we're going to slice some mushrooms. A lot of times you'll see in Stroganoff recipes, they'll use white button mushrooms. They're okay if that's what you like. However, I'm using organic cremini mushrooms. They're also called baby bellas. They're baby portobello mushrooms. I just think they have a nicer, meatier bite to them, and I think it just adds more to the dish. When you're working with mushrooms, don't ever wash them. Don't put them underwater. All you do, you just take a damp cloth and you wipe them off a little bit. And that's how you clean mushrooms. I'm gonna clean the rest of these and then we'll come back, okay? Now finally, we've cleaned off the last mushroom. I'm gonna place this in the garbage and then we're gonna get our knife. And what we're gonna do is we're going to slice these. Just gonna give a really rough slice. We want them to be kind of big because it's a stewy meal. So we don't want little pieces or itty bitty pieces of mushrooms in there because we really want it to be nice and hearty. Nice big beautiful mushrooms and they're meaty. These are going to be so great in this dish. These are not your mother's button mushrooms. Once again, this adds an earthiness to it, which is what? Another layer of flavor, which will make this not your everyday beef stroganoff. So now we've cut our mushrooms, and what we're going to do is we're going to add the mushrooms to the onion and garlic mixture. Goes right in there. And then we're gonna just mix those around in there just for a minute or two. And we're gonna let this sit for a few minutes, and I'm gonna stir it around just a little bit. And then we're gonna deglaze the pan. You know what? A lot of people would say I should probably have deglazed the pan before I added the mushrooms, but I didn't do it this time, and it's still gonna be wonderful. And that's the great thing about making good food. Sometimes there's an order to things, but it's not precise like baking. So if you choose to deglaze your pan after you put the mushrooms in, that's just fine. Okay, so we're gonna deglaze the pan, and we're gonna use sherry. Now, sherry comes in all different styles. It's very dry, then you have dry, and then you have a sweet sherry, and then there's a cream sherry. I'm using cream sherry. The reason being is that it adds a hint of sweetness to the stew, and it also adds another layer of flavor to it. Once again, we're layering flavors as we go along. So now what we're gonna do is, you see all of these wonderful little bits here? We're just gonna add a little bit of sherry to it. This is to taste. I just kind of swirled it around, and then we're gonna wanna take this, and see all those little bits? We wanna get all those little bits up, because that's gonna add flavor to the stroganoff. You don't ever wanna leave that in the bottom of the pan. You wanna incorporate all of that. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give this an opportunity just to sit. We're gonna let the onions and the garlic and the mushrooms kind of marinate and pick up all the beefy goodness from the beefy bits and the sherry. And we'll be back in a few minutes. We're gonna take a look at it, and then we're gonna keep going. See you soon. And now we're back. These are what the mushrooms are supposed to look like. They have cooked down, and the caramelization of the onions and the garlic is all together. We've also, after deglazing the pan, it has reduced, and the alcohol in the sherry has cooked out. And all we have now is just wonderful flavor. And now we're gonna add everything to the big pot. Here's all our wonderful meat, and that's all gonna go in the pot. We want to keep all that juice. Don't leave anything behind because that's all flavor. So everything goes in the pot. Juice, everything. Next, we're gonna add the mushrooms. All the mushrooms go in the pot. You wanna get all of that. And once you deglaze the pan, what happens, you remember all those bits that were here? They've all loosened up and they've been incorporated into the onion and mushroom mixture. Okay. Okay. And this is what you'll have so far. We're gonna put the stove on a medium heat. I have an electric stove. I really like cooking with gas, but where I live, they have an electric stove, so I have to do my best with what I have. But put it on medium if you have an electric stove. Put it on about 4 or 5. If you have a gas stove, just a medium heat. Once again, so now remember what I said about we're going to flavor, we're gonna layer flavors through each and every step. Well, here we go again. Now, don't get crazy with the salt because we're gonna add golden mushroom soup and that has salt in it. If you are concerned about extra salt, you can cut back on it, or you can use low sodium golden mushroom soup if that's a concern for you. But right now, we're gonna add a little bit of salt. We're gonna add a little bit of pepper. And now we're gonna add some golden mushroom soup. Some people use cream of mushroom soup. I happen to like the golden mushroom soup. I think it's more flavorful. And since we're gonna be adding sour cream to the dish, that's gonna add the creaminess that the cream of mushroom soup would be adding. Then we're gonna use the whole can. I'm gonna put the can in the garbage. And then we're gonna stir this around just a little bit. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some sour cream to it. To me, I think we should I'm gonna add a big dollop of it. You added a sweetness. This is gonna add a little bit of tanginess to the dish. Once again, it's gonna add another depth of flavor, another layer of flavor. And see, we're gonna mix all of that up together. And then the last ingredient we're gonna add is beef broth. Now I'm using organic beef broth. You can use regular beef broth if you like. I just like to kind of be as healthy as I possibly can, even though this is probably not the most figure-friendly dish that you'll see me make during our whole series, but it's good. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna stir this around. It already smells amazing in here. I can't wait for this to be done. And now this is where the patience comes in. Hey, welcome back. Well, now you get an opportunity to see how it has cooked down and the sauce is velvety. See? The pieces of mushroom are still intact because we made really nice big pieces, so it'll be great in the stew. The sauce is velvety, and oh my goodness, you should smell what it's like in this house. It's amazing. And right before we came back from the break, what we did was we started to cook the egg noodles. Now, what I've used is whole wheat egg noodles. I just think that you get your fiber wherever you can get it. Wherever you can get a little bit of extra. And the whole wheat pasta, it will give you that, it'll supply that for you. But if it's not something that you like, feel free to use regular white pasta egg noodles. It'll all work out fine. Not yet. I'll tell you when we're gonna talk about this. What we did was we took 4 quarts of water, we boiled it, we added the entire package of noodles, of the egg noodles, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna butter them up a little bit. So I'll probably put about 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. See, just gonna glisten it up a little bit. Love a little bit of butter. Okay. All right, now we've got our noodles ready. So how we're gonna plate this, or how we're gonna present this is, we're gonna put some of the noodles on our serving dish. As I try not to drop the whole pot of noodles on the floor, because I can be clumsy sometimes. Okay, and then we're gonna finish by topping it with our fabulous beef stroganoff. Once again, as you notice, the sauce does not look like paper mache paste, and it shouldn't. And now, parsley, just to add a little bit of freshness. What we're gonna do, sprinkle a little bit of parsley right on the top for a little bit of presentation. And there you have it. I hope that you enjoy this meal, and the recipe will be at the end of the credits. Enjoy. We'll see you next time on Just Good Foods.